Haven't been doing too much on cars the last week or so because it's been Christmas, so I've just been mucking around on all sorts of other little bits and pieces. But I have started cleaning up this Landrover a little bit. I'd already washed the engine twice and found I just couldn't get the dirt off it. You can see it's all just stuck on here. And it turns out the whole engine bay has been sprayed with some kind of horrible wax or a detailer or something like that. And I've been slowly cleaning all of that off, basically with a toothbrush and some turpentine. It was the only thing I found that would actually dissolve the stuff and make it come off. And it's come up so much cleaner. You can see it's not perfect. You can see the dirt still in there. That's that sticky stuff. I've basically done that half of the engine bay. I haven't done this half yet, which is why it all still looks kind of filthy. You can sort of see it down inside there. I don't know what that stuff is. I don't think it was on there from the factory because it's obviously just been sprayed on from the top. So places like down here where the jack is, you could see one side of the jack was covered in it and the other side was perfectly clean. So somebody's obviously just sprayed over the whole thing. And it's horrible stuff. And you can see that's why all the hoses and things are brown, because of the dust that's now just stuck to them. It's just caked into them. I did clean up the air filter. I took all of this apart, gave it a good clean. I did find that the mesh screen on the mass airflow sensor was damaged, so I've actually removed that for now. Apparently that shouldn't cause any problems. It's mainly there to stop large objects going into the intake, but that should be impossible anyway with the filter in there. I also discovered what some of the broken vacuum hoses were. Let's see, I think it's this one. You can see here there's a hose that doesn't go anywhere. That went to a T-piece, and I still need to fully trace it all through, but that basically goes down to, I'm not sure if you can see it, but down in there's a little vacuum pump, and that's actually for the cruise control. So one of the hoses goes up here somewhere, I believe, possibly onto this. This is like a vacuum throttle actuator, and the other hose goes down to the brake pedal apparently, so that disengages the cruise control. But it's not a feature I ever really use. Obviously none of my other cars have it, and cars that I've driven in the past that do have it, I don't like it because it's one of those things that distracts you from driving, I find. I don't know, I don't find it that hard to go at constant speed, and that's part of the fun of driving, is having that input into what you're doing. So I don't like that feeling of no cruise control, of having cruise control rather. It's just kind of, it's not my thing. I did take off the front bumper. It was starting to get a little bit rusty, so I pressure washed that, gave it a really good clean, treated any rust on it, there wasn't much, and gave it just a coat of black anti-rust paint for now. I have removed all the plastic bits and pieces, and that's one of the things I really hate about modern cars, is there's just so much of this plastic on them, and it just gets old and brittle and breaks, and it's not easy to fix. If this was metal, I could fix this easily, but because it's this plastic, it's just horrible. It just cracks, it warps. I just don't like it. These, for example, were the headlight washers. I managed to get one off okay, but the other one is just broken. It's just cracked. And as soon as it's all just plastic. So as soon as you try to put any torque on those nuts, even after I soak them in penetrant and stuff, it just breaks. So those will probably be left off. I've blocked up the hose that comes from the window washer, and this is some of the other plastic. This goes under the front panel, and you can see here how these just get ruined, and it's partially just through the pressure I'm guessing this plastic creeps a little bit. So when you've got fasteners on it and they're tightened up, it just kind of moves because plastic's soft, obviously. And then some of these are obviously just ripped out. These are the front bumpers, front corners. These sort of screw onto the ends of these, and then this goes underneath the steel bumper. I have cleaned them up with some plastic and rubber stuff, which definitely makes them look a lot better. I don't know how long that'll last. Probably not that long, and you probably have to keep doing it once you start. The main overrider part that the number plate goes on, that's come up reasonably well. So I will put all that back. I have started looking at plastic welding kits. So you can get little kits that let you fix this. And it gets interesting because the most basic tool you need, really, it's effectively like a soldering iron with a special foot on the end, if it's one of the direct heat ones. And you just use that to melt the plastic, and then there's effectively plastic filler welding rod that you then can feed back into the joint. They also use stainless steel mesh, which you effectively melt into the plastic, and then you can build up on top of that to repair things. So that's something that's worth trying. I've actually looked locally to see if you can get that sort of stuff, and it turns out you can't easily. Not that I've found so far. So the soldering iron type are pretty cheap. I think in the States you can get them for $30 US kind of thing. The only problem is I could order something like that on Amazon, but it's not going to work here because US mains voltage is only 110 volts, and of course we're 230 here, so that would cause problems. And I haven't been able to find those locally anywhere. The only plastic repairing type things I've found are ones that go on the end of little butane soldering irons, and professional type stuff. And the cheapest gun I found, professional hot air gun type thing, was about 500 New Zealand dollars. So I'm not going to spend that on something I just want to do a quick repair on, just so I can actually bolt the thing back up properly. So what I've decided to do is I've actually bought some of the plastic rods because I want to see how that works. Normally the plastic parts have markings on them to say what sort of plastic they are, but these don't. And the closest I've been able to find so far on a Landrover forum is that it's ABS, but I don't think it is, because I obviously use ABS filament for my 3D printing. And I tried melting some of this into a little sample of this plastic, and the two of them don't stick together. So I'm pretty sure this isn't ABS. I'm not sure exactly what it is then, but the rods I bought, it was just kind of a little, effectively like a sampler set, I guess, and it's got different sorts of plastic. So when that arrives, I'll be able to see what can actually melt into this. And what I'm thinking of doing is, I'll go into my little lab in a minute and show you what I'm thinking, but I have a hot air desoldering station, and I think I could make the little fittings that go on the end of these plastic welding kits. Effectively, it's an intake for the hot air and then an angled intake where you feed the plastic rod through. And I can make something like that easily. So when the rod arrives, I'm going to play with that a little bit and see if I could actually make that work. So hopefully I can sort of repair things enough to be able to bolt them back on the car and not have them fall off. I'm not trying to do perfect cosmetic repairs. There's no point doing that. I just want the car to be tidy and nice to work on. It's much nicer to work on an old car, even if it's old, if it's clean and you're not getting grease dripped in your face and all sorts of stuff. So when I had the front bumper off the Landrover there, I degreased all under the front that I could get to and pressure washed that. So I'm just slowly going around fixing up anything that's obviously broken. I can't remember if I mentioned previously the car always seemed a bit gutless, and it turns out the kickdown cable down here was completely disconnected. There's no way it can come disconnected by itself. There's a clevis pin with a lock on it, and the way this is bolted in, you have to undo the nuts to fit it onto the bracket and then do them back up. So that had obviously been left off deliberately, and I'm not sure why, which is a little bit of a worry. But I put it back on, and it seems to work, and the car goes a lot better now. So I'm not sure what's happening there. Again, searching on the forums, I couldn't find any reason why you would disconnect that, or if it can cause any issues. Effectively, all it does is it works off the gearbox and the pressure in the gearbox. So hopefully it's safe to have that reconnected. Everything else looks okay. It's obviously had some work done on it recently. All the fluids and things like that were changed, so I'm not too worried about that at the moment. This was the mesh screen, the mass airflow sensor screen, and obviously if that starts coming loose like that, you don't want little pieces of wire flying off and going through your engine. So it was safer just to take that off. I forgot to actually film the thing I was going to film. This is a hot air desoldering station. I don't really do anything surface mount, but I really use this just for heat shrink. It works really well for that. So these nozzles just kind of clip off. It's a bit of a tight fit, but you can fit different little nozzles onto there. So what I'm thinking is I can build an adapter that goes on there that lets you heat up the plastic and feed in the filler rod at the same time. This is some of the little sort of fittings that came with it. So I can either make another one of those or adapt one of those. I think it's worth a try once the little samples of filler rod arrive, and this will go up to 400 and it says 480. I've measured it, it's actually about 450, but this lets you vary the temperature quite nicely, so you can set it to just around the melting point of the plastic you're trying to weld, and it might work well enough.